The African is not African. The African right now is a coconut. Our governments are coconuts. Our pastors are coconuts. Our bankers are coconuts. Our professors are coconuts. Our doctors are coconuts. Our entertainers are coconuts, who are all trying to emulate what they call the global West. And when they accept the principles of the West, they accept not only the principles in terms of their function, but the culture also of these functions. Childbirth, cut the women up. Banking, you can only use money. You can't use your cattle, you can't use your land. Education, memorize Hitler and the wars of Europe. Church, go to church, pray so that your sins can be forgiven. Brown on the outside. But we are struggling with an African whose mind has been wired by white people. This is what worries me even about young politicians. They seem to know what's wrong with the government, but they don't know what to do when they get there. In some certain cases, it's a disaster. Because when these young men get into power, they'll even do worse than what the adults have been doing. We needed a new software. We need a new strategy, a new planning, a new thinking. Let's look at other countries that have succeeded. China, Malaysia, Singapore, Dubai, Russia. Look at the recipe of their success and tell me, those successful countries, what are they doing with their culture and how are they navigating the political terrain using their indigenous cultural, ethical software. I saw this morning, Chinese government, the governor there was found, he has stolen $30-something million and he has been sentenced to death because this is their law. This is their social contract that they have. With their people. And they implement. Here we are in Africa. Our leaders are trained in Europe. Graduates of America. Business partners of the Chinese. The recipe of success, indigenous knowledge. Western technologies, indigenized and hybridized to solve African problems. Recipe of success is when the young people combine their strength with the wisdom of the old people. The next few years, we're going to be seeing lots of changes as these systems are going to collapse one by one. We're going to be seeing pastors being stoned by their own members. We're going to see people removing their monies from the bank and beginning to do their own community saving systems. We're going to see presidents being stoned by their people, because the lies of politics are unending. We're going to see boycott of European systems as people are finding their voices, finding their health, finding their moral and ethical anchoring. This global village that you are moving into, my fellow Africans, the question I've always asked you, what are you going to be in that village? You were slaves for the past 400 years. Now you're no longer slaves in chains, but you're slaves in your mind. When the global village is finally upon us, cashless society, who controls the cash? No IDs. Who controls IDs? World standard health. Who makes those drugs? World standard education. Who writes that curriculum? I am the watcher. We just watch. It is our duty. Hello one and hello all. Good afternoon one more time. You're on your afternoon drive live with Maponga J, broadcasting from Harare, Zimbabwe. We have just traveled safely from Burkina Faso. We're back in the south, and while we were in Burkina Faso, we have experienced 2 or 3 events that I would want to pass a quick commentary on. The Tanzania massacre, the Cameroon old age home retirement politics that is happening there, the stoning of the president of Zambia, and the invasion of Nigeria by America. Quite interesting, and also in the shadow of that, the Madagascar and Indonesia Gen Z takeover of their governments there. You cannot miss it, that in our generation we are moving into a space where truth is coming out, systems are being tested, and neocolonialism is collapsing in our very eyes. It collapses not because people don't believe in the patriotic efforts that the liberation struggle movements have been able to bring to the country, but the collapse is due to the failure of leadership to understand the dynamics and change of politics within a national, regional, and an international framework. The local understanding is based on the absence of governments during the struggles of the people, be it employment, be it services, be it roads, be it hospitals, be it the invasion of their own privacy due to international pressures. All these are small little things, but when you add them up together, they may build up into what we call the political unrest. And the regional politics, we begin to see that countries are slowly getting interested in each other. What happens in Indonesia also happened in Egypt some few years ago, if you remember. And the Indonesian government, the young people there, they ended up taking power into their own hands. In Tanzania, oh, that was a sad event indeed, because 98%, I think that's an exaggeration. I still believe that Salihu was going to win the elections had she even allowed the other young people who were in opposition to rally around the government and do their own elections or campaign. But to arrest all of them and lock them up in prison, and then you say you have won the elections when you are running by yourself, then the question is, how do you win a race when you are running alone? It only means that you legitimize your function and operation using the political and government equipment and machinery to drive that election. This is not only in Tanzania, but throughout all African governments, from the south right up to the north, that if we are not careful the way we handle these public equipments of power, they could end up actually burning and coming to us on the downside. Cameroon is even worse. All the opposition leaders in Cameroon have been arrested by Biya, and they're all behind bars. Biya has elected himself again for the 8th time as the president of Cameroon, the longest serving democratic leader known in the world. And I'm using the word democratic because I want you to simply understand the fact which I've always been emphasizing on farmers of thought, that we cannot build lots of trust on political systems because by nature they have vulnerability and are capable of being manipulated. Democracy is not watertight. Democracy is a plastic baby. It's fluid. It always takes the container. It always takes the shape of the container in which it has been put. And I think African people have put too much trust. Have put too much trust in these colonial systems, which in themselves cannot regulate themselves. I wonder if you hear what I'm saying, that in a democratic system where the government is in power, the government must print the papers, the government must set up the polling stations, the government must put the security, the government must run the elections, the government must count the elections, and then the government must pull itself and remove itself from power. I don't know how you people think in your world. And worse, when the opposition leaders are busy making statements of arrest. You know, we're going to arrest you, we're going to put you in jail, we're going to take your money, we're going to do this thing. And you tell me as a normal human being that you could actually be sitting in a government office to manage opposition and give them access to power. When you have given them access to power, knowing very well that with their coming into power, they are coming to not only dislodge you, but also even arrest you, in some certain cases, even kill you. Politics therefore begins to find itself vulnerable in the hands of personal interest, where people have to protect their lives to be able to stay in power so that they can avoid pending danger that is nearby. Number two, you also take note that when this situation breed themselves, the people that are in politics are not the only ones that are interested in the political welfare, but the business community, the people that are transacting in government, the suppliers, the procurers, procurement departments, people who are supplying services, goods and services to the government, who have long-standing contracts, where through these contracts they've been able to survive, be it the supply of paper, supply of computers, supply of transport, supply of fuel, supply of, whatever machinery that the government wants. They are making money from the government because they have standing contracts with the government that is in power. The coming in of a new regime therefore means that these businesses are going to lose their traction and transactions. And for sure, these government officials will have a very big interest with the relationships that they already have with the multinational companies and the local businesses to make sure that those contracts are maintained. The man that is in government actually has a contract where his family and himself is benefiting in the back door through the money that people are siphoning out from the government. And this is the same money that is used for campaigning and keeping the president that is in power. At an international level, the quality of contracts that every government, democratic president has, then you hear that he has flown to China, he has signed bilateral agreements, he has flown to France, he has signed bilateral agreements. He has flown to Britain. He has signed bilateral agreements to increase cooperation. Cooperation. You hear these words being spoken. I wonder if we really understand what this cooperation is all about. This cooperation is founded on the principle that as long as this one is in power, that contract is effective. So presidents stay in power because, one, the international community has a direct interest with the president or the government that is in power. Two, the business community of that country has interest because there are business transactions that are in the pipeline and contracts that must be maintained over whatever period that has been agreed. And thirdly, it is the fear of the politicians themselves that when they move out of power, they might actually end up in a more vulnerable state outside of political power than they have in the present. So for those three factors, when they are put into play, politics become very vulnerable and democracy becomes a crippled child. Because for democracy to move forward, it needs the interest of the masses, it needs the willpower of the parliament, it needs the international community and the business community to stand aside and allow people to govern and rule themselves. As you look at Zambian model, you look at the Tanzanian saga, you look at the Cameroon saga, you look at Madagascar, you will not fail to see this politics penning itself and repeating itself over and over again. Nigeria then presents for us an interesting angle as to there is war. There is war in Sudan, massacres in Sudan that are going into hundreds of thousands. Massacres in Congo that have been going on for the past 100 years. There are still deaths that are being recorded in Afghanistan, in Syria, and the bone of contention in Gaza. People are dying daily in Gaza. And then all of a sudden, America has got an interest in sending soldiers to Nigeria to go and help the people of Nigeria against their leader, democratically elected leader, Tinubu. One must always ask themselves the question, when America goes to a country to serve that country, are they serving the country or they are serving their interests? What is it that is in the north that America is looking for? Maybe that would be a very good question to ask. Americans will not just come for war to fight for the sake of fighting. They have an interest. And while this interest is there, we cannot miss it, that ISIS is sponsored by the American government. Boko Haram was sponsored by Barack Obama, the American. The problem was created for Nigeria through Boko Haram. And now Trump is coming to solve the problem of America, which was caused by America. One can only sit back and wonder, is this about the resources? That would be number one. Number two, Nigeria finds itself in a very vulnerable space where Muslims in the north and Christians in the south. The setting up of Abuja and Lagos becoming the two centers of power. And I've told people in the past, I'll say it again, that the wage and division that religion has built in Nigeria has made them vulnerable to external support and external interventions. America is coming as a Christian country into Nigeria. You need to sit back and start asking questions. If America is coming to serve Christians, will Saudi Arabia and the Middle East watch their religious members being victimized by the Americans? Bearing in mind that the war that is happening in Iraq the war that is happening in Gaza, it's along the same lines. Is it not possible that the war between Christians and Muslims is now changing grounds to be fought in Nigeria? And while you are processing that, you also want to keep in the back of your mind that America top business is that of selling weapons. So they create wars around the world so that they can justify their budgets for buying new weapons for their American governments. And every bullet that we find there is coming from the gun manufacturing companies, which have contracts with the American government. Here is my observation. Here's my observation. Muslims versus Christians and the Jews are the bankers, the sponsors of the war through the banks. Because every bullet costs money. Every aeroplane and missile costs money. Every soldier who is walking and spending a night out is costing money. So the Jews are businessmen who, through the banks and the gun manufacturing industries, make money out of war. Out of war. So it is Allah, Jesus, and Yahweh who are at war. And while the gods are fighting, people are dying. I was suggesting that these gods pack up their bags and go back to their countries. Religion divides us. Spirituality unites us. And until Africa begins to learn to watch the wars of governance, the superiority of democracy over indigenous governance systems, the wars of education, ideologies, the wars of food, the wars of food, agriculture, economic wars, superiority of the American dollar, and the means of transactions on the international community. COVID taught us wars of health, the wars of technology. Who's got better equipment than the other? Ultimately, the wars of spirituality. I recommend to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, please find a copy of the book, African Questions and African Solutions, and understand the systems that are at play in our political conversations. Gaddafi died in economic war. It's unfortunate. When we elect young people to join political circles and they begin to campaign, fighting for power, that they also want to rule. The question is not whether they can rule or not, but what tools are they going to be using? What gods are they going to be using when they get into positions of power? What currency are they going to be using when they do transactions? What kind of curriculum are they going to be giving us to develop the next generation? What kind of food? Ultimately, what kind of spirituality tools are they going to implement? Build more churches? Build more mosques? Because what a man deems to be spiritual becomes the motivation for war, or they can become instruments of peace. So in my observation, we are looking at a turn of events where the African needs to find his soul. The African needs to find his voice, where the Chinese are becoming more China, more Chinese, where the Indians are becoming more Indian, where the Europeans are becoming more European, where the Americans are becoming more American. I wonder what the African is becoming. We seem to be diluting ourselves with policies, principles, religions that we import into our space. We confuse ourselves with financial systems, educational curriculums, business strategies, and currencies that do not seem to be in unity with our DNA and our composition. And the more we try to be like them, the more we lose ourselves. Every time you try to be like another person, you deprive them the opportunity to experience you.
Africa, Mama Africa.